Hello there, I'm VJ Chambers and I'm here with the weekly roundup for today, May 23rd. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about the very first inspiration for the serial that I'm currently writing. I don't want this to jinx anything. It's going fairly well thus far. Since everything that I've attempted to write since I got pregnant has pretty much crashed and burned and just been either like impossible for me to write, or I just got sick of it, or just various things happened. So this is the first thing that I've been able to get anything going on. So today I'm going to talk just a little bit about the very first piece of inspiration that I had that got shoved into this book. So to talk about this, we have to go back in time, not to last summer, but to the summer before that, which was the summer that I first moved into this farmhouse that we live in. And at the time, I was working. I had like really bad carpal tunnel, but so I was just in a bad mood. And actually, when I've thought about this recently, that period of time in my life is a lot similar to the pregnancy period of time, with just, and I've tried to reassure myself, hey, there was that whole period of time right after your first year that you were full-time where like you could hardly get anything done for pretty much the whole summer. Like I was just, it was horrible, and I was so depressed about it. But I spent all afternoon every day reading books, and I got on a Stephen King kick. For some reason, I guess I just, I read all of the Stephen King books that like I hadn't read yet, and there were actually, I don't know, like 4 of them or so, because it had been a while since I had looked at Stephen King books. So I read like the one about going back in time to try to change Kennedy, and then the one about the Doohickey. I read that one, and like some other stuff. I don't remember exactly, but when I went through all of the new Stephen King books, I started going back and rereading Stephen King books that I liked, because I just, sometimes you just get into Stephen King or into whatever writer that you're into, and you run out of new stuff, and you're like, fine, I'll just reread old things. I mean, that's what I do anyway. So I reread The Stand, and I knew it would take me a really long time, which was part of the reason why I was doing it, because it's a long book. And while I was rereading The Stand is when I got this first, like, teeny tiny part of inspiration that eventually is working its way into this new thing that I'm writing. And basically it centers on the character of Nadine in The Stand. And if you don't remember, like, it's been a while since you read The Stand or since you saw the TV miniseries or whatever, Nadine is the evil chick. She's the chick who is the bride of Randall Flagg, who's the bad guy, and she's kind of like there's this scene where it's like a flashback where it talks about how when Nadine was in college or something, like or I don't know, she might have been in high school, I'm not sure, whatever, but her and these other girls did like a seance, and the seance thing went crazy, and it was like just spelling out, like, you're mine, if you are pure, Nadine, you are mine. So the whole idea was like Nadine could not have sex with anyone because she had to save herself for the devil, or Randall Flagg, whatever. And I don't know, being me and the person that I am, like, this whole idea just really kind of intrigued me. And what I felt was so upsetting about it was that there's just so much build-up to the scene where Nadine finally meets Randall Flagg, and they consummate this thing between them, because she is, marked as the bride of the devil or whatever. And so, it just like she kills off the other guy that she's been having this kind of thing with, where they haven't had actual like vaginal sex, but they've done everything else that you can do, because apparently according to the devil, being pure just means having an intact hymen. I don't know. Whatever. That was just the way it was in the book. So, but then you get to the scene, and it just cuts out. Like, you don't see anything. And then the next time you see Nadine, she's, like, lost her shit. Like, she's completely crazy, and, so I guess the idea is that you're supposed to imagine that some sort of terrible, awful thing happened to Nadine while she was having sex with Randall Flagg, and it's so horrifying. Like, it's better to not have it on screen because it's so horrifying. Then you have to imagine what this horrifying thing was, and it was so horrifying that, you know, it's just completely made her go absolutely crazy. And she ends up, she's pregnant with the spawn of Satan or whatever, but she ends up, like, throwing herself out of a window. And I realize again that I'm doing spoilers for a book here, and so I'll have to note that. Spoilers for The Stand. Like, have you not seen The Stand? Whatever. Or read The Stand, rather. Anyway, so that's what happens to Nadine. She goes crazy and dies. And, for me, I think as a woman, I felt like it was such a kind of male thing to write. It's probably also a realistic thing, I think, in the sense that there's not, like, a real evil Randall Flagg / devil man out there, but there are actual really violent, horrible men who molest women and do terrible things to them, and probably do just essentially, like, you know, steal their spirit and make them go crazy, and that's a whatever. But, like, that wasn't, I mean, I don't know, I felt kind of let down, because it wasn't so much that I liked Nadine. It wasn't like I was like, ooh, Nadine, I'm on your side, I'm pulling for you, because she was evil and she did bad things, and, you know, but it was weird because what happens is you start feeling really sorry for Nadine because she's, like, gone crazy, and this whatever, you've imagined this awful thing to her that's happened to her, but you didn't see the scene, you don't know, but it was, you know, some sort of horrible sexual torture that's robbed her of her senses. And to me, I just thought, like, Nadine was a strong character, and to have her just reduced to that, it's like, it just sort of sucked. Like I said, it's probably realistic, like, that is what happens in real life with evil, violent men. I mean, that's what they would do to strong women. But I thought, you know, if I was gonna write a story where a woman was the bride of some sort of, like, evil devil Satan-y type thing, like, wouldn't it be so much cooler if it didn't go down like that? Like, wouldn't it be so much cooler if, instead of her being ultimately destroyed, if she was just changed in some way? Like, what if, I mean, it could be a corrupting influence on her, and it could ultimately lead to her downfall, but what if it was, like, what if it just wasn't so blatant and male, and just kind of, like, I stuck my penis in you and destroyed you. Like, I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, I think maybe I read a lot of stories like that anyway, so it's not like it's a real, like, woo, out there idea for a VJ Chambers story, but, so, it kind of, like, just sat in my head, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And I thought, well, I don't know how I would write this story, I don't really know what the point of it is, and I was like, it kind of sounds like Jason and Azazel anyway, like, did you already write that? And, then I was like, and, like, I didn't want to do, like, the actual devil, obviously. I mean, Randall Flagg isn't really the actual devil either, but I didn't really want to do, like, that kind of character, so I was like, well, you need some character that's really evil, and I was like, well, what would that be? And I don't know, I didn't come up with any ideas, so it just kind of went to the back of my head. But it was one of those ideas, because I have certain ideas that kind of go to the back of my head, and I'm like, I don't know what to do with them, but they will come back. Like, sometimes I'll have an idea, and it'll be just like, oh, this is the most awesome idea ever! But then 2 days later, I forget about it, and I couldn't tell you what it was. And so that idea really wasn't the most awesome idea ever, but an idea that I think of, and then it keeps coming back and keeps coming back. Like, that one, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna write this eventually. But I still didn't know, like, when or how or where I was going to do that. And a lot of time passed. I tried, when I was writing the book Crimson, I tried to have that book be that story. But the problem was, with that book was, it just didn't end up the way I wanted it to, because I realized, like, after I had, like, gotten the outline finished and I was all, like, ready to write it, I was like, oh, but in this book, like, what happens is Carter, who's the male character in that book, he's, like, evil, but he doesn't corrupt, Tegan. He instead, like, she sort of, like, shows him how to love. Like, he falls in love with her, and it brings out his humanity, and so it's much more like, kind of like, it's a romance novel, so it's like, oh, I was a bad man, but the love of a good woman turned me around, you know, like, kind of one of those fantasy stories of romance, whatever. And I was like, that's not what I want to write. I want to write something much darker than that, much more, like, morally bad. What I just did with my hand. Like, so, you know, where you're not, there's no, like, good and evil, it's, like, much more just gray. So anyway, that is one little piece of the thing that I'm writing. I'm not going to tell you how it fits in yet. I'm going to just talk about this. I'll talk about another aspect of it next week, and then another aspect again, and then we'll kind of get it all together so that by the time that it comes out, hopefully sometime in the middle of June, hopefully, that then you'll know all about it by then. Alright, well, I've talked and talked and talked and talked and talked again, so I'm gonna stop now, and I will see you next week. Thanks!